here we are, and I'm so grateful, Maggie, that you said yes to this. I really don't know there's anybody else that I would have. I would love to be as excited about this conversation as I am to have it with you. You are just an absolute blessing to our church, our congregation. You are adored here, and when I think about you, I see a woman who, my words doesn't have to be your words, fully surrendered to Jesus, and you're just a gift. And so, our conversation here is about knowing God in prayer. So we want to talk about prayer, and I just want to hear from you on some of these things. But when we talk about prayer, sometimes I think a lot of us think it's just that activity in that moment that we do, and it doesn't really feel super connected. It doesn't feel like it's working. It doesn't feel like it's. I feel like there's so many things that we miss about the heart of prayer. It becomes dinner table time. It becomes when we need something time, and we have this. Oftentimes in the church, a misunderstanding of the significance and the power of prayer. And I know even for me, you've guided me in a lot of that, and you've guided a lot of other people in that. And now you're guiding our prayer team in that. What is something that prayer has taught you about how to surrender? What's the relationship between prayer and surrender for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for your kind words. I just feel so much love for you and the congregation and what God has done here. I have to give you a little bit of background. I don't want to go into too much detail, but when I was a young woman, I was married with a little baby. And during that time, I came in the midst of an Orthodox church environment. I came into the knowledge of having a relationship with God that I did not know that you could have. And then that became a reality one time back in 1971, before I think probably half of the congregation was even born. But anyway, I came into a saving fullness of God through prayer at a big meeting I was in, and that showed me while I was praying and by myself praying and singing Amazing Grace, and God met me in a powerful way and showed me that I could directly connect to Him, and that He was always seeking me and just ready for me to, connect with Him that way. So, so the next important point to your question is that through a series of events, my husband and I, later on, this was in the late 80s, early 90s, we had left our church, and we kind of didn't go anywhere for 15 years. We were out there in the desert for 15 years. And I remember God's wooing and bringing us back into that relationship with Him again. And why it took 15 years, I have no idea. It's just we were being formed and really ready for intimacy with God again. So I answered an altar call one night at my new church I was in. And the pastor there asked all those who wanted to go deeper with God or have more of God, or he was using terms like that, but essentially he was just saying reconnect with God and be open to what He wanted to do in your life. So it was another type of a surrender to Him. And I remember I had already been to that new church a couple of times, so I knew that essentially I had, made things right as far as not just waltzing in and just expecting nothing to have transpired between me and God. I knew that something had to change. But I remember that night of the altar call to come up front that that I remember as I was stepping out of the pew and making my way up front, my heart just said, God, are we okay? And I really felt that that honored God, and that just really spoke to him about, I wanted a relationship with him again. I didn't want to assume that I could just be that casual with him about after being 15 years away from him. And he met me that night again, just so wonderfully, with so much grace and love. And I remember after that, I was crying at the up front, and then I went back in the bathroom, and I was just crying and crying. And we had a just saint of God who came back in there, and she said, God did something. I said, he did. And then from that time on, God answered that by giving me himself. It was a lot easier then to pray because I had reconnected with him, and he gave me him.
Wow.
Wow. Not so much the gifts. He gave me him, and it was a lot easier to pray after that.
Wow.
There wasn't so many obstacles left in my heart.
Yeah. You know, here at City Life, we say, one of the response stations that we have during worship is prayer, and there's different ways people interact with that, through people, through a room. But these cards, we have prayer cards, and we say, we pray over these cards. You take those cards and you walk them over. We've got a prayer room that we open up on Mondays. And I so often see you park and walk in there every Monday. And I think it's fascinating. Even this is just coming to me sitting here with you. It's interesting to me, like, in how much the short amount of time that it takes to walk from your car to that door, and that the Lord has made me present a lot of those times to see you walk in and out of there, whether I'm coming or going. Like there's something that you really believe about prayer, and I see it in you, and I want to ask you about it. You believe that prayer is that reminder that we are dependent and that we are deficient, and we need to call on the one who can. And you go in that room and you pray over those cards. Why? And you do it with conviction and tears in your eyes. Why?
Because it gives me the reminder of that parable about the prodigal son. And when he had come to the end of himself, and he decided that what his father was giving him was so much more than anything he could try to do for himself or have for himself apart from his father. And the part that always gets me about that is he decided, I'm going back to my father. And he starts walking back to his dad. And his father, somehow or another, I forget whether it said he saw him or he knew he was coming. I think he saw him.
He saw him a long way off. Yeah.
Yes. And his dad ran.
Yeah.
He
so
ran.
Good. So good.
And it's like, I'm there thinking, that's what God does with us. And your sermon this morning was spot on, and I'm so grateful that you said what you said about we have a responsibility with this. And once I heard, and this has been sticking with me ever since, and it's a little bit of an ouch for us, but the saying is that we are as close to God as what we want to be. So if we're waiting, doing nothing, and just thinking that one day God's going to show up and we're going to be close to him, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Because he's always been seeking us. And it's like that's the Father's heart, is to always be seeking us. And then all he's asking is a yes.
Yeah. Oh.
We don't have to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
We just say yes.
Yeah.
And then we are dependent on him. Yes, that's the next step. And then the next step and the next step. And then he requires that we ask. He said, ask of me and I will show you. He says, ask and seek and knock. So we work with God in that regard by being obedient. That's our act of worship, is obedience to the Lord.
You said something amazing. I just got to say it. the way that my brain heard it. You are passionate about prayer the way that you are because you have the picture that God the Father saw you a long way off and came running to you. So you are so overwhelmed by the grace of the Father that you want to talk with him all the time.
Because of his faithfulness and that, I've seen my surrender, and I love the fact that it's emphasized we have to do our part first because God will never force himself on us.
Yeah.
And also when we say yes, he won't overwhelm us either. I mean, he'll give us as much as what we will receive.
Yeah.
But I think it's just over and over again, God proving himself to be someone who loves us more than we can conceive and wants to give us what is best for our lives, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. What, I mean, you've been passionate about this for a long time, and God has been shaping you through this, you personally. So here you are laboring on behalf of so many people that are either they're desperate or they're saying, hey, I love when we say, go right on that prayer card and we'll pray for you. And I know it's going to happen because it's going to end up in Maggie's hands. Like, what is the thing that God is still shaping in Maggie through this conviction of prayer? Like you're coming to him and you're seeking him in prayer on your own as a form of your own worship, but on behalf of others. Like, what is he shaping in you still? How's he showing himself to you through prayer?
Well, the thing that is happening today that's really renewing and reminding me daily about things, having been through some very difficult last few years, sometimes you ask questions and sometimes you reach to the point where you go, "That will be done, Lord," and I surrender my life to you, because another phrase that has stuck with me is that God, God is outside of time and space. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking the thing that gets me going when I get into a tough spell right now is I remember that eons ago, before I was ever conceived or thought of or whatever, God already knew my story. And now he's with me, knowing exactly what he's doing. Yeah. He's out of time and space. And so I can get that peaceful, calm assurance to pray for others, knowing that, boy, he sees them. Yeah. He knows them. He knows what they need, and he's present today. He was there. He's here now, and he'll be there too. So that's just such a confidence that we can have trust in him to do what needs to be done for our lives.
Yeah. You're such a mentor for those who have questions about prayer. If a young adult comes up to you and says, "Ms. Maggie, I want to take a greater step in my surrender to Jesus, and I think God's calling me to do that through prayer," how would you guide or encourage that young person?
Well, something that I'm doing that's helping me to sharpen hearing from the Lord. And don't get me wrong, I have an encouragement, maybe an odd encouragement, is I do struggle with prayer. It's just a normal thing because we have the enemy of our soul giving us distractions, and you have to realize, I think, quickly that, oh, wait a minute, this is a distraction. Okay, I get it. But one thing that I think I would offer is that you realize that prayer time isn't just that hour or whatever time you give them in the morning. It's also, it can be a constant streaming of just staying, connecting to God throughout the day, constant streaming. And those who now, young folks that are aware of downloading and streaming and everything, ask God for the ability to always have your mind connected to Him because Brother Lawrence did in his book, Practicing the Presence of God. He was a monk washing dishes many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And he knew he was never going to get into the kind of a cloistered prayer life that he wanted. So he just developed that practice of always staying connected to God. And that lends itself to hearing from God, which is so awesome. Because if you are connecting with God like that, with your spirit, and you're really pressing in on him, you are going to sense what he has to say to you. I mean, it might not be clear cut, but you're going to sense he's saying, have peace, have trust, and then you're just going to start to feel, I think, the leading of the Lord a little bit more, because you're just so focused on him. You get to know his voice. You get to learn his voice apart from all the other voices.
Yeah. We need less of seeing prayer as prayer time and more of seeing prayer as a rhythm of life. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of an interview that I saw a reporter doing with Billy Graham, and they asked him about his prayer life and how often he prays. And he said, in only a Billy Graham way, or you thought somebody might have been puffing themselves up a little bit, but he would just say, well, I'm praying always. Mm-hmm. The Bible teaches us to pray always. Mm-hmm. And the reporter was like, well, how do you do that? Like right now we're having this interview. You're not praying now. And he goes, I am. Mm-hmm. I'm praying that the Lord gives me the words to speak and guides me by his Spirit. I'm praying for you in this interview, and I'm praying for my words that they'll be meaningful. And I just remember that. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm always praying. I'm praying right now while we're having this interview. Mm-hmm. It's that mindfulness, practicing the presence. What a strong word. And I think a strong word, not just for somebody who's new to this or a young adult. That's for all of us, Maggie. That's... Guys, like he's there. He's alive. He is present with his Spirit. We are with him. We can talk. Mm-hmm. Maggie, you are a gift.
Oh, thank you.
No, we're so grateful for you, and that you would share some of your heart and your story. And I think we could probably sit here for an hour if we wanted to, and just keep this going. But I've been able to know you for a few years now, and walk with you and come alongside you and parts of your story. And for that reason, I really mean it when I say your story really matters to us, and we're grateful for you. So thank you for taking the time to do this.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to do this. Nothing makes me happier than to be able to share what Jesus has done and will do for everybody.
Amen.
Really. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Love you.
Love you too.